One of the big fallacies in the world of cybersecurity is that people think, I don't have to worry about being hacked, why would anybody want to come after me? But it turns out attacks against small and medium businesses are actually growing much more quickly than they are against major corporations, because major corporations can afford to hire a 50-person security team, whereas a smaller medium business can't. The fallacy is, when you think about these cyber attacks, they are not coming against you, they are coming against everybody.
There's two companies out there, one that's been breached and one that doesn't realize that they've been breached. Yeah. So it's not a case of understanding, am I ever going to be breached or not? It's acknowledging that you will be.
So the complacency that we've had with small to medium-sized organisations around whether or not they'll ever be a target of cyber, I think those days are gone. Almost every organisation today has a dependence on technology for some purpose. I think the key to it really is that organisations need to, large or small, need to understand that the information that they have responsibility for, they have accountability for.
If you don't actually take into consideration seriously what you do and where you exist in the ecosystem of a supply chain, you might be surprised actually what value you might have, and you might be that secret little back door that a hacker is looking to violate and walk in through.
Recently there was a hack against Target, which was a large American retailer corporation, and in that hack over 100 million accounts were compromised. 1/3 of America became a victim of criminal attack, right? Was in theory, 1/3 of America was theoretically robbed as a result of this Target hack. How did they get into Target's point of sale terminals where people swipe their credit cards? It was actually through a small third-party vendor in, I believe it was Illinois, and they did heating and air conditioning. So it turns out Target had contracted out the management of their heating and air conditioning systems, HVAC, to this small third-party contractor in the Midwest of the United States. An employee there accidentally clicked on a phishing email. He opened up the attachment, that infected his computer. Then the hackers were able to get in through the heating and air conditioning contractor, small mom and pop shop, into the Target contractor network, into the Target main network, into the Target financial network, into the Target cash register network, into their point of sale network. So Target was compromised because they didn't test and vet a small third-party company who they contracted. So 100 million people in America became victim of a crime because their air conditioning systems via a vendor were attacked.
Some of the other trends that I think are impacting cybersecurity at the moment, one is certainly to do with legacy systems and the ability to keep those legacy systems patched and up to date. How organisations can fund the ongoing patch management battle, keep systems and services working effectively, knowing that there are vulnerabilities and exploits out there. I think there's a challenge around that.
So one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing now is with ransomware attacks. It's increasingly both in size but also in public awareness as well. Like there's been attacks in the UK on the health system, but also attacks here in Australia.
I think a lot of people underestimate the impact that ransomware can have to an organisation. It's not necessarily just the sensitive data that can be sitting on a financial system for a bank. It could be as simple as the access control list that's actually preventing people from physically walking in and out of a branch. If you take it another step further, and if it's actually a building and you sort of sit there and go, well, I'm a facilities manager, I don't retain any data or anything important about an organisation. Well, let's just think about on a 40-degree day if someone through some ransomware hacks into your air conditioning system and turns off all your air conditioning vents and you can't get them back on. Do you think most people are going to sit within a skyscraper 40 stories up in a 40-degree day? Probably not. And that's going to be just as disruptive as someone locking you out of your file on a computer somewhere.
The issue of convergence of physical security, access control, building access and those sorts of things, even down to Internet of Things type monitoring and sensors within a business area. One of the challenges with a convergence of those types of technologies with traditional IT networks is there's a whole new cohort of business leaders in the facilities management and access control and business building security that don't quite get the cybersecurity issues that they're faced with. So they might be deploying new physical security technologies but not understanding that by connecting it up to internet internet-enabled systems, they're actually creating new risk for the business. I think one of the challenges going forward will be around how well configured or how capably, whether or not an Internet of Things type device can be securely configured, and whether or not they're being crafted with security in mind. And so that'll go down to, or that'll have procurement implications in organisations.
So another risk that's evident at the moment, and one to be aware of, is that as there's a growing number of providers moving to the cloud for their subscription-based security services, that we need to be aware of, and people should check what's their security level like, where are they housing the data, how are they storing it, and importantly as well, like if you're future planning, when you're exiting that contract, what happens to the data once you decide not to go with that provider anymore?
I think if I look at it and if someone proposed to me what's the one bit of advice that I'd give around cybersecurity, at the end of the day, the cyber aspect is definitely there and it's logical, but it's still the wetware or it's still the human action that needs to be involved. It's the human that's going to design the system. It's the human that should be checking in on it. It's the human that should be involved in the process and not fully trusting what's happening. And going in as an editor and making sure that things are correct and that it is doing as it's supposed to be doing. So for me, if I was giving advice to anyone, is make sure you still invest in your human aspect. The human capital is still very important, no matter whether you're a security or an IP or an IT systems-based vendor. It's still your people that are actually going to be the most valuable asset that you've got within that. You might just have 5 people rather than 100 people in the traditional sense, but those 5 people are probably going to be the critical linchpins within your success.